What is up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Coos, and welcome to another edition of Coos' Corner. I'm coming to you straight from my basement here in wild, wonderful West Virginia, and I've got a guest on tonight on Coos' Corner. His name is Rian Winter. He's from SportsChat503, a YouTube channel. He's from Portland, Oregon, coming to us all the way across the country. How you doing, Rian?
Doing great, Coos. Thanks so much for bringing me on, man.
Absolutely. Great to have you. Ryan and I were talking before we got started. I said, who would have thought a guy from West Virginia and a guy from Oregon would have been teaming up? It's cool stuff. Only YouTube allows this to be available, right?
Amen, man. Cheers to YouTube for making it happen.
Absolutely. Obviously, this video is going to be a breakdown of Oregon and Oklahoma. That Valero Alamo Bowl coming up on December. Well, actually, I don't know the date. When is that game coming up, Ryan?
That's Thursday, the 30th.
The 30th. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
The 30th. All these dates
Wednesday, my
together,
bad.
Wednesday the 30th.
The 29th. My bad. 29th. Wednesday, 29th. I'm ahead of myself.
Gotcha. All right. Man, there's so many of these games I can't keep up.
I'm
honest.
in the same boat.
So anyway, I probably should have researched that, but it's all good. Hey, before we get into breaking down the game, I would be remiss, you being an Oregon guy. I got to ask you, what are your thoughts on the hiring of Dan Lanning as your coach?
We're pretty fired up. I mean, when this whole thing went down, again, I'm coming out here all the way on the other side of the continent. So, very edge of the whole world out here, feels like, out in Oregon. We kind of have two different camps. One, we kind of had the viewpoint of we want to get somebody local, somebody who's been here, know what they're doing, know the terrain, know what they're getting themselves involved with, and somebody who's good to stay. I think that was the bigger deal. We saw a couple different coaches come and go, and we were looking to really try to get somebody who was willing to stay. There was the other camp that said, hey, this team's willing to win right now. They're top 25, top 15, maybe even top 10, top 5, depending on what part of the year you were talking about. This is a win now situation. We need to get the best coach available. Turns out, best coach available was probably not a head coach because, again, we got kind of late in the year. Mario announced it after the Pac-12 signing, or after the Pac-12 championship, right before early signing day. Worst time possible to try to get a coach. And looked like maybe that the best opportunity was in the offensive or defensive coordinator. Looked around the country for those different offensive defensive coordinator. Of course, Dan Lanning's name goes to the top of the list because of what he'd done at Georgia as defensive coordinator. Oregon has been historically an offensive focused football team, and I think it's really exciting to get a defensive guy in here, see what can happen, especially a guy from the South, a guy who's young. That was my main objective. I just wanted somebody young. I'm 43. This is the first time I've seen a coach hired younger than me. So, and it won't be the last, I can tell you that much, but it is one of those things that's pretty exciting to have a defensive mind come out to Oregon. If you have a good defense at Oregon, we've been dangerous. Always, for the most part, had a pretty good offense. So put a good offensive mind on the other side and run with it.
Awesome. Good deal.
I real quick, I asked that staff's come up. Kenny Dillingham got signed for the offensive coordinator. Young guys across the board. So I think you're going to have a real good program ahead of you for Oregon. Might take a year or two to get right where you want to be, but I think the future's bright.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And then the other thing I want to ask you about before we break down the game is Bo Nix. What are your thoughts? That was a shocker, I think. At least it was to most of us here on this side of the country. What would you say about that? What is Oregon Nation? The Big Green, I guess it's Big Green Nation. What are they saying about Bo Nix coming to Oregon?
Yeah, we call ourselves the flock out here. Wherever the flock goes, we kind of go as a flock. But yeah, no, came out of left field a little bit. We have very young quarterbacks in the room. Basically, we have 2 sophomores, but they're COVID freshmen, and 1 true freshman that make up the quarterback room. Some pretty talented quarterbacks here, young, but everybody is excited to see these young quarterbacks. Last year, you had a 10-win team, and you had fans clamoring to bring the freshman on instead of Anthony Brown, the senior quarterback. So the freshman is Ty Thompson, 5-star recruit from Arizona, and looks the part. The other 2 kids are really good. Robbie Ashford from Alabama, Jay Butterfield as well, can throw the ball, and just there was some really good players here. So didn't really see the grad transfer coming in for a quarterback, but Kenny Dillingham worked with him at Auburn. His freshman year, had success with him there. And, maybe this coaching staff's looking at it saying, hey, we got an opportunity to bring in a grad transfer, somebody who's tried and true, has been around and played these type of games. If he works out, then maybe he's the guy, and it might help this coaching staff with this transition, or you go in and you have an open competition. And if these guys are good enough, these freshmen, sophomores are good enough, then they'll be the starter. So there's a lot of people out here that want Ty Thompson. If Ty Thompson's that good of a player, then he'll start over Bo Nix. Nobody have a problem with it. But I don't think Bo Nix is coming out here not to start. So I think you're going to have a real issue. I think this spring camp just turned up a whole nother notch because of this signing. So I do think there's kind of two camps, just like I said before, about how to go about the coaching search. I think there's two camps. I think there's definitely one camp that says, hey, if he can help us, then let's go. If you're a Duck and you're in our colors, we're going to support you. There's other camp that says, wait a minute. We were already focused on somebody else and we really want them. And bringing this guy in might kind of stifle their development or might actually just push them to the transfer portal altogether, which would be terrible.
Right. Now, which camp are you in? Are you in the Ty Thompson camp or the Bo Nix camp?
Boy, I don't really know. On any given day, at any given time, I might flip. I think I'm 60-40 against it, but I would just personally like to see whatever the coaching. Again, things change when the coaching staff changed. Had it been the previous coaching staff, Mario, Cristobal, and the rest of that coaching staff, then you already know that he had Ty Thompson in there as the number 2 player this whole year. So it would obviously be, let's have an open competition in camp and see what happens. And you know that Ty Thompson might be in the job because he was number 2 going into it. Now you bring in a whole new coaching staff with whole other ideas. Maybe these guys don't fit the right way. And maybe you have a situation where you need a Band-Aid for a couple of years. Bo Nix does have 2 years of eligibility. He says he's only coming to play 1 year, but technically got 2 years of eligibility, so I don't really know. I would love to see the young guys go, but big game, start the year at Alabama or at Georgia in Atlanta. That's going to be a huge game to start the year. To start the year down there in Atlanta, you might want to give the ball to a guy like Bo Nix. Last year, going into this year, having the same kind of conversation, a lot of the fan bases wanted to go with the younger guy. And I said, this guy, Anthony Brown, didn't come out here to not start. He's going to be the senior. He's going to be the starter. He's going to give you the best chance to win at Ohio State. And they came back with the W. Not many teams have come out to the Horseshoe and won, and the Ducks did it last year. It would be crazy, but it might happen. What if the Ducks win that first game against Georgia next year in Atlanta? That would be absolutely insane. But we saw it already with the Horseshoe last year. So you might want to think Bo Nix probably might give you the best chance to do that.
Right. Good point. It's always good to have veteran leadership going into a big game like that.
Yeah, I think the Auburn fans are really split on Bo too, though. I think the Auburn fans are like, hey, half of them say, hey, good riddance. The other half says, hey, he's a legend. His dad's a legend. We love his family. He can do no wrong. But the other half says, see ya. We'll go with the young guy.
Yeah, he was. Bo Nix was a very, I guess you could say, polarizing quarterback. And West Virginia's going through something similar here with Jarrett Daggy here. Half the fan base likes him. The other half wanted the guy benched weeks ago. And he's a 5th-year senior, but I think we don't know yet if he's going to use his COVID year of eligibility or not. If he did, it'll be his 6th year in college football. And I just don't know at this point how much better can a kid get after he's been playing 5 years already.
I agree with that. And I think that there's some people who say, hey, if you're not going to the NFL, you're just riding the thing out and trying to play as long as you can in college. That's fine. But I think there's some fan bases that get a little tired of those players and they kind of turn on them a little bit. And maybe their end of their senior year might not be the final senior year they wanted. All
right, now let's break down this game. First thing I want to do, the odds of the game, the Vegas odds. Oklahoma's at -5.5, over under 61. ESPN has Oklahoma 70.7% chance to win. Oregon has 29.3% chance. I did not expect to see that kind of discrepancy in the odds, the ESPN odds. And I don't know if these odds were, and we'll get to this later, but I don't know if these odds were made before guys started opting out or not. But to me that changes things, honestly. But and when you look at the team stats, Oklahoma, you got points per game. Oregon's at 31.4. Oklahoma's at 38.4. Points allowed per game. Oregon's 25.5. Oklahoma's 25.3. Total yards. Oregon's at 418. Oklahoma's at 442. Yards passing. Oregon's at 215. Oklahoma 265. Yards rushing, Oregon 203, Oklahoma 176. Yards allowed, Oregon at 371, Oklahoma 382. Passing yards allowed, Oregon's at 241, Oklahoma 258. Rushing yards allowed, Oregon's at 130, Oklahoma's at 124. So there's not a lot of difference in most of these stats. The yards passing is probably the biggest one. Oklahoma obviously throws the ball better than Oregon does, but Oregon runs it a little better than Oklahoma does. So that's why I'm so shocked to see that 70% favorite by Oklahoma. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say most of the year Oklahoma's been the better team. I do think that there happens to be an opportunity, depending on what week you look at, that Oregon looked like the better team. Oregon had the higher ranking, but that doesn't really mean that much at the end of the day. Oklahoma, let's just play it out throughout the year, right? It feels like the first 3 games of the year, Oregon had the better run. Oregon had the better opening week because they had that second week at Ohio State and beat Ohio State at the Horseshoe. Oklahoma didn't have a win like that early in their year. Oklahoma kept winning games and kept getting pushed back by the college football committee or by the rankings. I do think that Oregon has an opportunity at the end of the year to try to resurrect their season because they finished it so poorly. But Oklahoma's in a situation where they're kind of in the same boat. So I kind of look at both these teams are looking in the mirror. And yes, you said right. Oklahoma threw the ball much better than Oregon. Oregon did not focus on the throwing at all. And when they needed to, they can get some yardage with their air attack. But Oregon fans were incredibly frustrated with the lack of passing this year. Oklahoma has the situation with their quarterback. They go to the freshman. That's what a lot of Oregon fans wanted 3-4 weeks into the season. Even after Anthony Brown brought back a win from the Horseshoe, the fans were ready to say, nope, we're done with Anthony Brown. We want the next guy in. So it's a really unique opportunity for Oregon to be able to play this Alamo Bowl. This is a tough one for Oregon and Oklahoma. Both these teams have very high aspirations, pretty much national championship or bust. I think Oklahoma is legitimately national championship or bust, or at least college football playoff or bust. I would say Oregon is kind of right with them, maybe a little bit below them in the acceptance of an Alamo Bowl or acceptance of a Rose Bowl. But this year, because Oregon was flirting so highly with the CFP, this Alamo Bowl is a real disappointment. And I think it's the same thing for Oklahoma. So this is a very strange year for Oregon Bowl specifically. This is probably the weirdest one since the Sun Bowl when Dennis Dixon was a Heisman candidate and he got injured in 2007 and the bottom fell out of that season. And you thought you could have had a chance to go to the national championship and you end yourself in a Sun Bowl against South Florida. And South Florida that year also had themselves in the number 2 ranking. So it seems like most of the time in a bowl matchup, you have a team that's on the rise and a team that's kind of going down. Maybe a team that didn't fulfill their preseason expectations, and then a team that was kind of maybe overexceeded their expectations. And oftentimes that's what the bowl matchup looks like. And it looks like that Oklahoma Boise State Bowl that was very famous, Fiesta Bowl, right? With the Statue of Liberty play or whatever that was around the bout. So rarely do we have a situation where we have 2 teams that feel like they're both on the down and they meet in this game. And I don't know who really wants it. So Oklahoma's had a lot of people opt out of their game. And obviously guys going to the next level or guys transferring. Oregon's had the same boat. We both lost coaches. I mean, it's just such a strange situation comparatively to all the other bowl games in the past. It's not really anything you can compare it to. So I do like Oregon a little bit better than Vegas does, but coming off of the terrible games against Utah, where Oregon was basically a 6-7 point dog and maybe even a 3-point dog on one of them and gets blown out by 30. I think Vegas is just trying to take people's money on this one and begging people to take Oregon and thinking that Oklahoma is going to run their way with this one by maybe 2 touchdowns. I would love to see Oregon close early and make this thing a game, but I do know that Oklahoma's got some pretty good talent on their end, and I think they're really playing for something in the future. They've got the younger quarterback looking to still put quality film on tape. Oregon's got the senior quarterback that's on his way out. Half the Oregon fan base doesn't even want the quarterback to play. They want the young guys to play. It feels like an NFL preseason game more than it does a college football bowl game. Feels like guys are going to go into this thing not trying to get hurt before their off-season workouts. I don't know who's going to really go into this thing with their hair on fire. And whoever I think does come at this game with more passion, I think will win running away.
Great point. And I think you hit it right on the head, because both these teams have Oklahoma especially. I mean, half of their defense is sitting the game out. I mean, you've got all their leading tacklers.
Yeah, and it could be a great opportunity for the young kids, right? You know, you have
Absolutely.
all these guys coming out. I think this would be a great opportunity. So it feels like an exhibition game.
Yeah, you've got Asamoah, Benito, Thomas, and Winfrey. All four of those guys were all Big 12 performers. All of them sitting out the game. Yeah. And then on the offensive side, obviously Spencer Rattler, Stogner, and then Hazelwood all in the portal. And then I've got a couple backup receivers in the portal, plus one of our starting linemen in the portal. So it's, I mean, like half of their starting lineup is basically not playing in the game. Now, Kennedy Brooks, their running back, is playing. He said he wouldn't sit it out. He wasn't even an option for him, which I admire the kid for that, to be honest, because he's not even 100% sure if he's coming back next year, but yet he still wants to play in this game.
And that is saying something, especially against with an offensive line. You don't even really know what you got.
Exactly. And then Caleb Williams obviously is going to be playing because, you know, he doesn't have an option, I don't guess. But and to me, he could be the difference maker in this game, because I think he's probably going to be the best player on the field in this game.
I agree.
From a talent perspective, especially with Thibodeau and those guys being out on Oregon's defense. What do you say to that?
I totally agree. I think offensively, Oregon's going to be in a real unique spot, because you've got, you know, your head coach gone. You've got all the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Everybody's all staying on for Oregon to coach this game, which is a good thing, because you've had these guys take head coaching jobs other places, or DC jobs other places. DC's going to Texas Tech. The offensive coordinator going to Akron. So I do think that the Ducks are going to have a little bit something up their sleeve. I think the Ducks are going to come prepared for this one. There's going to be some players on the Ducks team that want to put some quality film on tape for this next coaching staff. There's some jobs to be open right now, and there's nothing better than on-game film. And going into this spring practice, I think there's some guys, one, looking to separate themselves from maybe the rest of their position group, but two, guys who are going to get an opportunity in this game because the other guys have opted out or transferred, that are going to really take advantage of their opportunity to put quality film on tape.
Right. Now, I was reading up on this game. Oregon's got two guys who missed the last 3 games on the defensive side: Keith Brown, a linebacker, and Keon Ware-Hudson, a defensive tackle. Do you know if they're going to be playing in the game or not? Or
I think Keon Ware-Hudson is going to play, but I don't think Keith Brown is.
Okay, so one of the two will be back.
Injury level, yeah. And Keith was best player in Oregon during his class, backer, outside, inside. He can play a variety of positions. I think he's probably better suited for inside backer. He was a guy who started as a true freshman at Ohio State this year. So the linebacker core took an absolutely just a bloodbath this year for Oregon. That first game we lose Justin Flo, who was the #1 rated linebacker in the country. One of those guys, just like Kayvon Thibodeau, just super highly recruited guy. And, you know, we thought we were going to have Kayvon Thibodeau and Justin Flo and Noah Sewell all together for the whole year. We only had him play for 1/2.
Man, that sucks.
Tragic, man.
Yeah. And another thing that concerns me with you know, obviously Caleb Williams being quarterback for Oklahoma, and not only is Thibodeau out, but you guys have 2 starting corners out, if I'm not mistaken, right? And Mikael Wright and DJ James.
Yeah, Mikael Wright is going to the NFL, and DJ James, it was in the transfer portal. Yeah, there are guys in that room that are young that can ready to go. And again, that's why I said it feels like an exhibition game, because there's going to be a lot of guys on the field that have, you know, fairly young and not much experience. So we'll see what we get, but. The nice thing about what Mario did, you know, Mario left this team with 3 really strong recruiting classes back to back to back. So there's some depth in all of these rooms.
That's good. That's good to know. And I would imagine Oklahoma, as good as their recruiting classes are year in, year out, I would say they're in a similar boat. But I'm gonna go over. Even though I always like to do individual stats, in games like this, it's almost pointless because half these guys aren't even playing. But some of these guys are. Obviously, both quarterbacks will be playing. Anthony Brown, it was 223 out of 350 passing, 2,683 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Caleb Williams was 115 for 184, 1,670 yards, 18 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. So neither quarterback turns it over much, which is could be a good clean game. But I did notice that Oregon has intercepted a lot of balls this year, and their cornerback and I think it's a safety actually that is their leader in interceptions. Can you touch on him a little bit?
Yeah, that's Verone McKinley III. Yeah, Verone has done a great job. 6 interceptions. We thought he probably should have won the Thorpe Award, but he was the runner-up. Really, really quality player. And I think Oregon's defense, for all of what it could have been this year, right, because of all the injuries and everything else, I still think it did fairly good job on the back end. The safeties and corners, I felt like did a pretty good job. A lot of zone coverages for Oregon, so there was some opportunities to kind of pick some balls off over the middle. There were some errant throws in those picks, but a lot of them were really, really, strong interceptions and game-changing interceptions as well. Thinking about their Duck defense, the Duck defense is a little difficult because, for how good they are on paper, they were a very poor third down conversion defense. Their third down conversions were just absolutely one of the worst in the country. Offensively, third down conversion was very strong. Defensively, they were just very weak. And that could be scheme, whatever the case may be. But I think injuries had a lot to do with that, especially in the middle. Losing guys in the middle that they just could not recover from. So I do think Anthony Brown, his biggest skill was probably running the ball. He's probably a running back that is a quarterback, running back that throws the ball. He's strong with the ball in his hands. He doesn't fumble the ball very much. He does make fairly good decisions with the ball in his hands. He's a game manager, but made some glaring mistakes this year at certain points that really cost them points for sure and could have possibly cost them ball games. Of course, no one person cost any football team the game, but they were real close in certain situations, and literally the wrong move by the quarterback cost dearly at certain points during the season. So there were a lot of boo birds with Anthony Brown, a lot of people calling for the backup, and people just knowing that this offense was so predicated on the run that there wasn't that much the quarterback could do. They threw the ball as much as they could, but their leading receiver didn't even get 600 yards this year. So that just kind of shows you where they were at offensively.
Well, I noticed that Travis Dye, your running back, which I'll touch on those stats in just a minute. He was also your second leading receiver. So that shows how important this cat is to the offense.
Well, that shows also that most of the passes were within the line of scrimmage.
Well, that's true.
So, and I think, that was a big thing as well. CJ Verdell was the starting running back. Travis Dye was the backup, but they worked kind of in tandem. They did different things. Travis Dye, more of that outside the pocket kind of guy and kind of in the flat. CJ, obviously, more of the traditional running back. CJ gets hurt after the Ohio State game, and Travis Dye has to become the main guy. I think he did a fairly good job. He ran for over 1,000 yards, but his real skill is in the screen passes and in the flat, creating space and kind of trying to basically an extension of the run game, right? So you look at Anthony Brown's passing yardage, and a lot of those passing yardages are on a 5-yard out that goes for 60 yards. So, the Oregon Ducks don't throw the ball deep, maybe 2 or 3 times every once in a while just to keep the defense honest, but it's not a part of their game.
Right. And just to touch on the running back stats real quick, Dye had 193 carries, 1,118 yards, as you said, over 1,000, 15 touchdowns, which is good. And then Kennedy Brooks for Oklahoma, who I said will be playing in the game, 184 carries, 1,111 yards, 10 touchdowns. So 2 backs who had really good seasons. Dye was slightly better, especially on the touchdown front. Kennedy Brooks a little bit better on yards per carry. But there again, also Dye did a lot more in the passing game as well than Brooks did. And then in receivers, of course, Duck's starting receiver, Devin Williams, is not going to be playing in this game. He's one of those guys that are going to be, I think he's going into the transfer portal.
He's actually going to the NFL, yeah.
NFL, okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then who's a receiver for Oregon?
Micah Pittman, he went in the transfer portal during the season. He went in the transfer portal like the week before all the receivers got hurt. I mean, He would have been the number 1 guy, yeah. And he was a starter. I mean, he was a transfer portal guy, but he just saw the writing on the wall. He went to FSU. He saw the writing on the wall. He wants to get to the next level. His brother is a stud for the Indianapolis Colts. His dad was an NFLer, and he's got high aspirations, and he wasn't going to get it done in Oregon the way that they were running the defense or running the offense for him.
I got you. Well, who's the next man up for Oregon then? With
Williams
being out.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to understand because, they had their two big wide receivers that were seniors, Jalen Redd, Johnny Johnson III, both of which got injured at the end of the year. Like you said, Travis Dye is actually the second best receiver on the team with the numbers wise. Devin's gone. So you got Chris Hudson left. You've got Troy Franklin. You've got the tight ends, Terrence Ferguson, Spencer Webb, Maliki Motivao, and then you've got Dante Thornton. Got a bunch of guys who are young. Two of those tight ends are true freshmen, and a bunch of those wide receivers are true freshmen. So a lot of youth in that room. The future's bright, but right now you're leaning on a lot of young guys on that wide receiver room. That wide receiver room is a lot thinner than it was to start the year. At the beginning of the year, that was what every Duck fan was like, oh, we got such depth in the wide receiver room. Well, now it's being tested. At the end of the year, you only got about 6 guys left.
Right. Yeah, and then conversely on Oklahoma, I mean, their leading receiver, Marvin Mims, he only had 30 catches himself, 648 yards, 4 touchdowns. So neither one of these guys, have a huge number of receptions because you got two teams with running quarterbacks, who like to run the football a lot, number one. And then Oklahoma's second best receiver is Michael Woods, 32 receptions, 381 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11.9 average. But, I mean, he actually had more receptions than Mims, just less yardage. Mims is their big play guy, so he's the one. He has all the yards. But I just want to touch on those stats a little bit.
But they spread it around too a bunch. I mean, because they spread it around. They got a lot of receivers catching balls on that side.
They do, and then but there again, one of those guys, Hazelwood, is leaving. Right. He's going in the portal. But the other two guys that are in the portal were only. I don't think neither one of those two guys statistically contributed much. Right. So they've still got some guys on that Oklahoma side that have played a lot of ball. So that could be it, and you take that in consideration. And Oregon's got two of their corners out, plus their best pass rusher out. I still think, which I'll get to my score prediction at the end, but I still think Oklahoma can put up a lot of points potentially in this game.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying about the Ducks. They got to score early and often to just hang with this thing. It's weird. I think historically everybody looked at the Pac-12 as being an offensive conference, kind of a weaker defensive conference through the 90s, through the early 2000s. To me, the Big 12 has really turned that up too. The Big 12 now has turned up to a point where they have a lot of offensive power, not as much defensive threat. I mean, look at that Oklahoma-Texas game this last year. I mean, whoever scored 60 first was going to win. Look at the rest of the history of Oklahoma-Texas. That's not like that. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just crazy. So it feels like the offensive have really turned up in the Big 12, and you have to outscore people in that conference to win. You can't just defend somebody. I mean, Baylor's done a fairly good job trying to be a defensive team and slowing people down, but it's hard to just stop people in that conference. They're going to get theirs, and Oklahoma is no different. I don't know exactly what you're going to get because, like you said, you got a bunch of people coming in, transfer portal or whatever, new coaching staff for the internment, staff or whatever the case. Same thing might go with Oregon, though. You might have a little bit of the doors open up on Oregon. They might unleash a little bit. Oregon's shown this year that they can score some points in bunches, but they also show that they can go completely stagnant and completely vanilla, even more plain than vanilla, and just slow the thing up and not score a damn thing. So I like Oklahoma in this game, at least by a field goal. I would say that Vegas is trying to take the money and run with it, trying to bait people into taking Oregon. But I feel like Oklahoma is a good 4 or 5 point favorite in my book, if I were to put it there. You just don't know what you're going to get with Oregon, and what you've seen on tape lately in the last month is not great. So going into this game, I feel like Oklahoma's on the better uptick at least. And ESPN would back that up by saying that 70% of the population says that Oklahoma's going to win it.
And we haven't mentioned this yet, but I think having Bob Stoops over there probably doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, I mean, again, we as older fans enjoy the whole history of college football. A lot of these high school, college kids, they don't know anything 5 years out. They weren't paying to college football even just 5 years ago. So you're right. I think that Bob Stoops has a name there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how the defense shows up. That's the big thing for me, because Oklahoma losing a lot of its defense, it could be really, really open. And if Oregon takes advantage of that, and as Oregon's able to run the ball and establish the run and kind of, milk the clock on their side a little bit, we could be in a real, real close ball game. If Oklahoma comes out and just starts throwing the ball all over the place, Oregon can be in real trouble. So I could see it going either way. I could see Oregon getting blown out by 20. I could see Oregon winning by a field goal or a touchdown.
Yeah. And you actually just touched on, I was going to ask you what your keys of victory were for Oregon, and you hit it right on. Run the football. They've got to run the football well in this game, in my opinion, to win. And like defensively.
Like I was saying earlier, that third down conversion on defense, their third down number was so bad all year. If they can just turn that up anywhere close to average, they're in any game.
Absolutely. Yep. Because they were awesome. I was looking at the numbers over, and you're right. They were top 5 in the country in third down conversion offense. Actually, I think they were 4th in the country.
Yeah.
In third down conversion offense.
And defensively, they were like 124th or something. I mean, just terrible. I mean, they're
118th.
118th. If you were just average, you're in the college football playoff.
Yep, you're right.
I mean, and I think, again, the more you watch college football, just football in general, you understand how important third down is. If you keep the chains moving, and if you stop them and put that punt team on, that's how you win games. And when they talk about defense winning championships, it's on third down.
Absolutely.
And this Oklahoma team could be really dangerous. They start moving the chains on Oregon, it could go in a heartbeat fast. I mean, Oregon could be down 20 points in the first quarter.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I've got keys to win for Oklahoma. They need to stop the run game, obviously, because Oregon's going to be establishing the run, and then I've got offensively they need to take care of the ball. Caleb Williams needs to just play clean football. Don't make mistakes. Don't let those ball hawks in Oregon's defensive backfield get interceptions. Don't make dumb decisions. If he can do that, I think Oklahoma wins the game. And I've actually got Oklahoma winning the game 42-38. And the only reason, honestly, if all of Oklahoma's defense was playing in this game, I would probably have Oklahoma by a bigger margin. But because so many of their guys are out, I think Oregon keeps it close. I do think Oklahoma I just think Caleb Williams is the difference in this game for me. And I think Oklahoma ends up winning by 3. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think if Oregon can score in the 30s, that's a great situation for Oregon. So if they can be in the 30s, I think that they're in it. Yeah. And anything can happen. My issue would be seeing what I've seen after the Utah games, where all of a sudden you can't even get double digits on the board. So that's very rare for Oregon's offense. But I think Oklahoma's got a good enough defense where they might be able to test Oregon a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I know they didn't score much in those Utah games, but I don't think Oklahoma's defense is as good as Utah's. Right. Especially with so many guys being out. And I just think Oklahoma's defense may struggle a little bit in this game because they're going to be playing so many guys from their 2 and 3 deep. I just don't know. I think it's definitely going to help Oregon put more points on the board.
Oh, I agree. I think Utah is actually going to have a lot in store for Ohio State. I don't even know if Ohio State knows what they're going to be up against with this Utah team. They are fired up. That Devin Lloyd in the middle is one of the best linebackers I've seen out here for years. I mean, the guy absolutely flies around the field. So, no, Utah is a solid team. Oregon just ran into a buzzsaw. They're playing for something much bigger than just college football this year. They had the 2 players that got killed in the last calendar year. Both wore the number 22. They did all this stuff with the number 22 this year. And then Utah goes and wins the Pac-12. And for the very first time they're ever going to go to the Rose Bowl. And what year are they going? 2022.
Man, I never even thought about that. That is crazy.
It's crazy, dude. And so Oregon just ran into a buzzsaw. Like, we didn't even really see it coming. It just flat right over the top of us twice in 3 weeks. I was at one of those. I was at the Vegas game, literally front row, like, what the hell just happened here?
Hey, man, Utah might be right now the hottest team in the country right now. No lie.
This is the reason why the college football playoff expansion needs to happen. One, and this is also why the powers that be don't want it to happen, because you're going to have a team like Utah, who is basically out of the top 25 3 weeks ago, come roaring all the way up at the very end and catch all this momentum at the very end. And it very rarely happens like this. But yes, if Utah were in an 8-team playoff right now, I would put my money on them quickly. Now, I don't know if they can hang with Alabama or Georgia, but I think they're going to give Ohio State all they can ask for in this road.
I agree with that. Absolutely. Well, Ryan, listen, man, I want to give you a chance. I hadn't done this yet. I meant to. I'm going to put Ryan's channel description or channel link in my description box. But Ryan, if you want to plug your channel.
Sure. Yeah, my Sports Chat 503 is the channel. Sports Chat is a classic, just little opportunity. I'm in my basement here as well, out in Southeast Portland. I own my own home, though. I'm not my mom's basement. I moved out of that. Everybody always likes to comment on that one. But I just love to do the Ducks. I'm a multi-generational Duck fan. My son will go there in 2 years. My grandparents met. My grandparents met after the war. My grandfather was in the uniform after fighting in the Pacific, and my grandmother in 1945 up at the Washington game. So my family goes way back with the university, also with Oregon football, and been a fan my whole time. I played all sports growing up, played football all the way through high school and whatnot, and have a very much of a love for the game, all sports or whatever. And so this is just something I do out of the love for the game, love for my university, love for our community, and just try to promote as much as we can on YouTube. I know a lot of people kind of look at Ducks as being some young money in college football, and Phil Knight, Phil Knight's paying for this or whatever, but there's a lot more donors than just Phil, is one thing. But the other thing is that, this Duck team is on the rise. This is a team that, in the 1990s, when I was in high school, won the championship for the Pac-10 and went to the Rose Bowl, 1994 and 1995 Rose Bowl. And that, to me, at that point in time, I didn't know if it would ever be back. And from that point on, all they've done is continue to improve. They've got themselves into some multiple opportunities, 2 different national championships, played that Auburn team better than anybody else that whole year. Cam Newton went 13-0 or whatever, and got it down to almost a field goal in that game. Played against Zeke Elliott and those guys the Ohio State year. Lost that one with Marcus Mariota, got a Heisman Trophy. Don't have a national championship in the trophy case, not yet. Got enough track national championship trophies to choke a camel, but don't have enough anything in the football realm. But they're getting close. They're building, and it's been fun to be a part of the ride. My son, like I said, he's a sophomore in high school. He's been to over 100 Duck games in his life. He's seen the Ducks go to a completely different level, and I've just tried to be a part of that ride. I try to just promote my brand and do my thing, and I come at it from a real sportsmanship point of view. I respect everybody. I love college football, and I really appreciate being an educator myself, looking around at these different schools, and all these kids represent these different schools. And so I'm not a hater. I don't talk a lot of junk or whatever out there, but I do love what we all love, which is the camaraderie of college football and the pageantry of the band and the cheerleaders and everything getting all together. And for you guys too, especially with West Virginia, you guys do a great job. Mountaineers do a great job. I love your guys' band, your cheer team, and got the little coonskin cap rolling and whatever else you got going out there. So we appreciate it. Out here, we're trying to do things different. We say tradition, eats turkey on Thanksgiving. We want to do things different out here because we want to try to buck our tradition. Our tradition is not great in football. So we want to try to change our traditions. We change our uniforms all the time. We change our identity all the time. And we kind of want to try to be new age. And our connection with Nike is obviously really great and whatnot. But we have a lot of fun out here, the Pacific Coast. The West Coast out here, it's a blast out here. Completely different part of the world than where y'all are at in West Virginia, but we all got love for each other. We're the same country at the end of the day. So USA, baby. Let's
Absolutely,
go.
Man. USA, that's right, man.
Hell yeah.
In this day and time, we need as much unity as we can get, brother.
Cheers to that, man.
Hey, listen. So I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's great to get the perspective of another team and another fan that. I've done some shows with fans from multiple teams, but I've never had a chance to work with somebody from a Pac-12 school. So I really appreciate it. And like you said, we all just love the game of college football at the end of the day and the traditions. And that's what we're here to do. because we love it so much. So we like talking about it. So what better platform to do it on than YouTube?
Absolutely.
Right?
And then, over this last month or so, the big thing has been taken off is the Twitter spaces, right? So the Twitter has had an opportunity to kind of go almost like sports chat radio, where you get to have an opportunity. During our time with trying to find our new head coach, we were on that Twitter spaces for a full week. The kids didn't even let it go. It was on 24 hours a day. We had our athletic director join the Twitter spaces just to kind of debrief the new hire. Before he even gone to the media, he went onto the Twitter space. So things are changing. The evolution of the game is changing. It's becoming much more national. And we have new opportunities with digital platforms, media, obviously with YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all these different things to kind of network. So I love it, man. I like I said, we all love college football. We're all from this country. We want the best at everything. And it all ends with having one celebratory winner at the end of the thing with the college football playoff. We're all watching on that Monday night. So it may as well be talking about all year.
Absolutely. Absolutely, buddy. 100%. Well, listen, thanks again for coming on, Ryan. And by the way, guys, I've got his Twitter handle scrolling at the bottom of the screen along with mine. If you want to find us on Twitter, I'm not on Twitter as much as I should be. I'm trying to do a better job of that. But you can find me on there if you want to shoot me a message or whatever. And same with Ryan at SportsChat503. I know he's on Twitter as well. So look us up, guys. Go to his YouTube channel and please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to mine, please do so. And I will catch you on the next video. Q Country Roads, baby.